One of the things we wanted to start off this conversation about housing in Girdwood is we have three folks from our community, a renter, a homeowner, and a builder, who are going to just talk about, for a brief moment here, about their challenges of becoming a renter, a homeowner, and a builder in this community. And then we'll lead off after that with our guest speaker from Breckenridge, Colorado, the former mayor, John Warner.
We bought a fixer-upper. The house we bought, which actually we came down, we thought we were going to build on a piece of property we have. So not only are we a homeowner, but we have land as well. And so we wanted to buy something inexpensive and fix it up to either rent it or sell it. And we found this place that was a little bit higher than what we originally wanted to spend, but we fell in love with the view, we fell in love with the location, and as we started, and when we got there, it had plywood floors, broken windows, serious lime green bedrooms, and it was a serious marijuana growing operation previously. So there was a lot of shelves for the plants, and it has a wonderful view. And as we camped out, and we actually did a lot of the work ourselves. I supervised, and my husband Hank did a lot of the work. And as we were working, I'm thinking, you know, this floor plan works for us. The view is fantastic, so we decided that we would stay there and make it our home. And so for the last 10 years, we've been working on this house, and it was a typical house in Girdwood that was built in the early 80s. That was kind of slapped together. So we ended up having to redo all the electrical, we had to redo all the plumbing, we had to, and we thought we were going to have some serious water issues. And it turned out that the pipes from the master bath and shower weren't glued together, so they came apart and water's just running down. And anyway, as a result of redoing our master bath is when my husband discovered that he loves tiling, and then Alaska Stone Care was born, and that's our business. But anyway, Girdwood has been great. The house is wonderful. We have 3 sump pumps, and there's always going to be water issues, but we seem to have that managed pretty well. And right now we're replacing our roof, which the house got 30 years out of that roof, so we have been really happy with that. And our property taxes just went up considerably, as I bet a lot of yours did too. And but it's wonderful, great neighbors, and just thrilled to be here.
I'm Jessica Zelag. I moved here about 6 months ago, so probably a lot of you don't know me, and I don't know you. But I've been coming to a few of the community meetings to get involved, and Grace had asked me tonight to speak as a millennial and a renter in the community. I'm kind of a fake version of that in a way because, one, I am Generation Y. I was Generation Y up until about 2 years ago when they just merged my generation in with the millennials and said, well, you're a millennial now. So I don't really feel like I resonate with what a millennial is, but I'm 35 and that's my generation. So we're like the new silent generation, if anything. The other background too is that while I'm renting in Girdwood, I'm actually a homeowner in Seattle. So I had experience renting in Seattle. I bought a house in Seattle, and moving up here, I'm now a landlord. I'm renting my property down there. So kind of in a different scenario where maybe some people are coming to town and renting. I know there's a lot of seasonal renters that come either in the winter or in the summer. There's also younger families that are renting and continuing to rent because they don't want to own. And then there's there's someone like me who's kind of new to town, and I just had to grab whatever I could find. So that's me as a renter. My experience renting, so first a show of hands of how many people here own their home. Okay, and then who rents their home? And then who rented before they owned in Girdwood? Okay, so most people have an experience. Like the houses that are available to rent are probably the houses that have always been available to rent. The one that I found, so my husband and I came here in July of last year. We knew we were going to be here in October. Met with Rebecca at Glacier City Realty. There was really nothing available. We had actually been looking for a year, just kind of watching what was rolling by, either posted for sale or for rent, and knew that the inventory was pretty slim. Also, we knew we were getting here in October, so we were probably later than what some people wanted to start a rental for, if people were coming up here for the ski season. So when we got up here, we kind of jumped on the one that was available. We were looking for furnished, we were looking for a 2-bedroom, and we don't know the pricing of utilities nor what the market, so we're pretty much getting price gouged. And that's what everyone probably experiences when they move to a new place. And we knew that, we knew we didn't know the market, but we're in a rental unit that will probably only be the rental that we have for this year. So our lease is up in September, and I think a lot about, okay, well, what are we gonna do after this? Because I could sell my house in Seattle and I could buy, I guess, or I could move into a new rental here. But the rental market is a little, well, there's just not a lot of inventory, and then there's not a lot of variety in that inventory. So most rentals for that are decent, maybe 1 to 2 bedrooms and maybe newer construction, are about $1,900 to $2,200 a month. And then on top of that, utilities, I've heard $250 to $500. And like I said, we're kind of paying on the higher end of that. Just it's furnished, but still the higher end of that. So anything under that is, I mean, we've looked at dry cabins, we've looked at the port, or the older construction. We could go there if we wanted to, but it's just kind of like it's not a great place to be when you know that you have to move, but there's not a lot of options. That's kind of why I've gotten involved too. So I have an urban planning and transportation planning background, and so I'm interested in this in general. And I also am coming from Seattle, where I mean, we were pretty much priced out. I actually couldn't sell my house in Seattle and buy another house in Seattle because houses are going for $750,000 to $1 million for a 1 to 2 bedroom. So we're holding on to our property, but we moved up here, and I don't think that Girdwood's real estate market yet is at a point that, say, like Breckenridge or Vail is. But what I do know about those places is that they were kind of caught off guard, that when the economy came back after 2008, a lot of the workforce housing was snatched up really quickly by out-of-towners, second home properties, or people that held on to property because now Airbnb and VRBO is a really attractive option to hold on to that property. And so you've got people living in their cars, you've got people living in motels that are changing from a daily rental to a monthly rental, changing policies to allow for that. And they're trying to build as much housing as they can, but some of these things take some time. I'm probably not going to realize any benefit of, say, if there's a really great progressive conversation in Girdwood about how to build more housing, that's still going to be 2 to 5 to 10 years off. So as a renter right now, I'm probably playing a game that a lot of you have played of get to know people, know what's going to turn over, have your cash ready if you want to jump on it. I want to stay in the community. I want to be able to afford to live in the community. And at some point, there's going to be a struggle between, well, am I commuting every day to Anchorage for a job that pays me the wage that I need to live in Girdwood? Or do I have to just move to Anchorage because it's more affordable there for housing? So that's kind of what my husband and I, we've got 6 months left on our lease, so that's just what we're starting to think about. Other just things to throw out so not so much as a renter, but as someone who worked in urban planning in Seattle, there's a lot of, I think, attractive scenarios to consider moving forward. A lot of people kind of think density is, the worst word ever, and I love density. I think a dense environment makes for the kind of community that I want to see, with a variety of age, a variety of thoughts, a variety of uses. Businesses boom all year long, and I don't think density is a bad thing if it's thoughtful and if it's well planned and it's where you want it to be. And so through the area plan update, which I'm starting to get involved with and is just really starting to kick off, there are some areas that we all, like this area and over in the North Town site where commercial development and more housing is contemplated. And those would be great places to put in more single family, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom rental units. There's tenant protection rights that you could put in that allow those who are renting to feel more assurance that they're not going to get kicked out without too much notice because, well, a new ski season starting, and so the temporary or seasonal renting could actually get a higher rental rate, and so people don't have so much comfort. There's some anxiety around renting in a town like this, so you could put protections in place. There's a lot of vacant land that's sitting around, so I don't know what that's taxed at today, but you could incentivize those pieces of property to be developed. A lot of cities are struggling with how to treat those Airbnb and VRBO rentals. Do you tax those more and put that money towards additional housing? Do you limit how many units can be rented? I just did a quick search today before coming here. Today, or at any one point in time, there are 37 entire homes in Girdwood that are available on Airbnb. So those are, and that's just not a shared room or anything, that's the whole house. There are 37 homes that are being put on Airbnb, and there's either someone in them that's renting from out of town, or it's just sitting there. And the going rate is anywhere from 150 to about 350. So it's really attractive cash if you're using that as a little bit of a side income, but I think about, well, those are 37 houses, that could be 37 new families, or even more if people wanted to share with that. So there's lots of attached dwelling units. There's so many things that can be done. When I moved here, I thought, well, there's so much potential. Just looking around, there's so much potential here. There's a lot that can be done. And I heard from a few people like, oh, well, no, it's all built out. And I thought, really? Because there's huge lots, humongous lots, 7,000 square foot lots. Some people own multiple lots next to each other. There's a lot that's not developed. And I know there's a lot of ecological reasons here and because of the environment where you can't develop and you don't want to develop, you want to keep it in nature. But I think that there's a way to have more inventory available in Girdwood, and then to create a healthier mix of inventory, because not everyone wants nor can afford a 3 to 4 bedroom house. So that's kind of my story and a little bit of background about who I am. So looking forward to getting involved and making it the community continue to make it the community we all want and love, but maybe with a few more people that can afford to live here. So thanks.
All right, I just got asked to come in and talk about some of the building difficulties in Girdwood. My name is Craig Schubert, and I own Schubert General Contracting. I've been building in Girdwood for almost 25 years now. And from a residential, which is most of what I do, there is a cost increase of probably between anywhere 5 to 20% in Girdwood due to multiple factors, being your soils, depending on where you are. You can get some really bad soils sometimes. Being labor, your labor costs are generally higher here in Girdwood due to the fact of getting people who can work to be able to live here. Another one I thought of a minute ago. It might come back to me. There's also, with the city, we have a land use planning as opposed to a Title 21 and inspected. We don't have any inspections going on in Girdwood for new construction or old remodels. Either one of those. In some ways, some people may see that as a positive. As a builder, I see it as a negative. You end up getting poorly built houses. You get homeowners who lose money because they don't know what they're buying because it hasn't been looked over by somebody who has the capability of knowing if it was done right or wrong. I think that's kind of something that's an important aspect of the construction here. Your climate here is very difficult, not just for the actual building season with lots of rain and snow combination, but also on the houses for, again, just massive amounts of rain and wind. But I think also the rain and freeze cycle that we get a lot in Girdwood, where it freezes and rains and freezes and rains and freezes and rains, and it does that 6-7 times throughout a year. It's very detrimental to the quality of the houses. That water can seep in, freeze, expand joints, thaw out, seep in further, expand, cause cracks, and so that's a problem that I find. Rot, obviously, is a very big problem that I find. When I first got here, most of the stuff in Girdwood was just getting rebuilt from when it was built in the 70s and 80s. Now I'd say probably 80% of Girdwood's been rebuilt in the last 15 to 20 years maybe, or at least upgraded. So the older stuff was definitely very poor construction, partially due to materials, construction science, all over the country, but in the state of Alaska has improved a tremendous amount. They've done a lot of research on how to build houses so that they don't have to deal with the freeze thaw or how to make them insulate them better, so you're not having these huge heat losses and these super high heating bills. And I don't know. I think that's it. From a commercial, I just kind of got this notice here. So from a commercial aspect, I think the costs are negligible. I don't know that the cost of doing commercial in Girdwood is as much as residential. For one, you do have city inspections. Two, you're probably bringing in an outside crew or some outside subs. Whereas in the residential, your market's a little bit, you're paying less than you do in the commercial industry, and so therefore your markup on getting materials and on your labor is highlighted a little bit more.